Well, all right. So this morning, the devs put up 4 developer blogs for Module 16, which are kind of the first official announcements we've had for Module 16. And so far, it's a lot of changes. The new module is Undermountain, the Undermountain expansion, first and foremost. Probably actually, they're all big changes. You can't really say one's bigger than the other. We'll just start kind of in order here. First off, there's a level cap increase. We're going up to level 80. This is not just a rumor now. This is a thing. Another thing that is going along with the increase to level 80 is that each class has at least one new daily encounter and at will, but that is just the surface of what is in store for our classes. So that's something to note, and I will get to the class changes in a minute. Yeah, that's really all there is. We're going up to level 80. When it comes to the old campaigns and whatnot, I am gonna guess that they automatically cap up to level 80 like they did when they capped up to level 70, because if you remember, like zones like Dread Ring or Well of the Dragons, they were level 60 originally, but then they moved them up to 70, and the only one that kind of stayed in the lower levels was Sharandar, that it can be started at level 64, and then the zones I think are 64, 66, and 68 or something like that. It's pre-70 to say the least, because Sharandar was the first campaign introduced into the game. Anyways, that's what I presume is going to happen. So anyone that's like, oh, the old zones are going to be so easy now. Nah, dream on. They're going to move them up to 80. Can almost guarantee that. Item level changes and changes in the scaling. This is a bit confusing. I am not going to lie. But basically what they're doing is they're changing the way item level is to hopefully make it more fair. So basically what it says is on the live server, a chest, armor piece, and an undershirt will give the same item level but give very different amounts of ratings or stats. Insignias will double the number of stats they give each rank, but their item level doesn't double. So these are the things that they want to change. So basically with the new expansion, one item level is going to equal 20 rating points, or 20 stats, 20 rating points equals one item level. So you kind of get the idea. It would take a little bit of math to figure out what the new cap is going to be, but it will be interesting to say the least. Let's see. While this change does address the majority of sources of item level, there's still some things like companions, mount powers, and bonding runestones. They haven't specified how they're going to adjust the values, but they said they're going to adjust the values. So the overall goal of all these changes is to make it so that if two players are 12,000 item level, they are very close in terms of overall potential. I already see so many flaws in this. You know, you look at older gear and you think, wait, I have to get over here. You know, it's not on the test server yet. I don't know if I said that already, but you know, let's go to equipment, my Trickster Rogue here. You know, you got your Pilgrim and my third Kuno here. Stat-wise, they're not that far off. The item level difference probably isn't going to be that significant. But the fact that the Kuno has the increase to your melee powers, that's going to make it more potent. You're not going to be equal or even close to equal using one or the other. And that's just an example from my perspective. I haven't seen the actual unfolding of the new module, but that's what I get That's what I think of firsthand. There's going to be a lot of flaws in this, just like any item level system they have had. The gear score was the same. It's just they keep changing it, and there's always going to be flaws. If anything, and you can call me crazy, it's just something they should remove. You know, it'll be a lot less competition. I know it is a way to somewhat judge people on their capability to run a dungeon or run content, support a group. But at the end of the day, what's going to make a player more powerful is their skill and knowledge, because you don't want to go into Castle Ravenloft with an 18k paladin that doesn't know how to run the dungeon. You know, it's a pain, you know, or you don't want to take an 18k great weapon fighter and run Cradle, you know. You got to know the mechanics of what you're running. So I think item level, no matter what they do, it's gonna be a flawed system. It comes down to a lot more than just item level. It's your feat setup, how you've set up your companions. You know, it's always gonna be a flawed system. It always will be. That is all I can say. So I think they're kind of wasting their time on that. Next is they're changing the item level scaling. So basically what they're saying is scaling players down has traditionally not truly changed a player's ability compared to the content they were scaled to. Along with our fixes to item level, we added in item level scaling, which should provide a better version of scaling going forward. Now we will scale a player down to a target item level. This won't be exact, as it will scale different items to different values. Enchantments will have a different scaled item level than equipped due to their different magnitudes, but because of this, a player can end up a bit above or a bit below the target value, but overall it should bring the players closer to each other and closer to the content. Again, I'm not buying it, because if it truly is bringing you closer, who on earth is going to want to upgrade their stuff if it's just going to bring you up? Like, obviously I get you want to get your stuff up, but if it's going to scale you anyways, I feel like the incentive isn't as strong to really get to endgame. I'd have to see the scaling, because if it's like the current scaling they have, well, holy smokes, you go into, what's it called? Oh, what's it called? The Cloak Tower. You go into the Cloak Tower, it brings you down to level 12, brings your stats down, your item level down, but you are way, way, way more potent than any level 12. So if it's that kind of scaling, well, that's out the window. It doesn't mean anything. Again, it's not on preview yet, but when it does, it'll be something to cover, and I will be making more videos, because this is what I do. I review the new modules. I go months with no content, then a new module hits and I'm back. So subscribe. It's good info. Next, let's see. Let's talk about the classes. The classes intro. It's not really an intro. So first and foremost, they're changing the class names. There is no more Devoted Cleric, Guardian Fighter, Oathbound Paladin, Hunter Ranger, Trickster Rogue, Scourge Warlock, Control Wizard, or Great Weapon Fighter. Instead, it is now Cleric, Fighter, Paladin, Ranger, Rogue, Warlock, Wizard, and the Great Weapon Fighter is changing to a Barbarian. Yeah, a Barbarian. Ha ha. Kind of funny, but it says that it is more closely fit to the typical, much closer to the Barbarian class with its fighting style and rage mechanics, looking at the 5th edition of, D&D or whatever. I don't really follow D&D, I just love this game, but don't ask me anything about Dungeons & Dragons, because I really don't know. So, that's already kind of questionable. There is no new class announced so far. Not to say there won't be one, but as of right now, there isn't any announcement for one. So let's see. Next is Feats. They are changing the feat system. So your feats here, your pretty little feats, consider this all gone. So basically, while feats are a system which allow flexibility and uniqueness to choose different character builds, how it was implemented and balanced made a lot of undesirable feats and powers. Oftentimes, an entire feat tree wasn't worth taking. This was a feature where we examined a lot of options. Ultimately, we decided to make some pretty significant changes. The Feats tab on the character sheet is no more, and feat trees no longer exist. You read that right. There is going to be no more Executioner, no more Scoundrel, no more Saboteur, for Trickster Rogue anyways, but you get the idea. All this, I'm waving my hand in front of the screen, not that you can see it. All this is gone. Say goodbye to it. Instead, what they're doing is each Paragon path. So while they're getting rid of the feat tree, they are still keeping the Paragon path. So for the Trickster Rogue, that's Whisper Knife or Master Infiltrator. So they're still going to keep the two. And basically, each path will have 5 pairs of feats, where you get to choose one of the 2 feats in each pair to customize your play. Again, this seems a little pointless because no matter what you do, there's always going to be a meta, and people are going to follow the meta. It's how MMOs work. You can't avoid it. There's always going to be one class that's better than another, one build that's better than another, one function that's better than another. And people are going to go for it. Even if it's just a fraction better, people are going to go for it because it's the meta. So again, I think they're wasting their time a little bit on this because it's how an MMO works, you know? So again, we have to wait and see. They say with this change, we can offer more unique choices that have a distinct impact in play instead of sprawling feat trees where the majority of the feats have no real impact on how you play your character. Now, to add to this, before you jump to conclusions like, oh, they're adding more unique choices, but there's no distinct impact, I get what you're probably thinking, which is why I'm just going to hop into the Paragon Pass, because the feats tie into the changes to the Paragon Pass, because yes, that is a thing. So basically, each Paragon Path now has 2 unique at-wills, 2 shared at-wills, 5 unique encounters, 5 shared encounters, 2 unique dailies, and 2 shared dailies. So basically, half your powers are Paragon related. Unlike now that you only have, what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 powers? Yeah, 6 overall powers, including class feats that are specifically related to your Paragon Path. So Paragon Paths have a little bit more of an impact. Not that they didn't before, but they'll have more of one now. So basically half your powers here are going to be related to your Paragon Path. A little crazy, but yeah. So basically what they're doing in addition to the Paragon Pass is currently Neverwinter has role-based queuing for content based on the class, with the one exception being the Paladin. If you go for the Healadin spec, then you are a healer. But if you go for the tank spec, you're the tank. So depending on what loadout you're on, or what Paragon Path you are, you will be queued under a different role. With the Paladin, what the devs want to do is, likewise to the versatility of the Paladin, they want to extend that option to almost every class, which is an interesting change. I think it's maybe a little bit much, but we'll see. So basically, the Paladin, or the Oathbound Paladin, will be a tank and healer, like before. A devoted cleric or cleric will be a healer or DPS. A fighter or guardian fighter will be a tank or DPS. The great weapon fighter or the barbarian will be a tank or DPS, which is a big change to the great weapon fighters, by the way. And the Warlock will be a healer or a DPS, so not much different than it is now with the Temp Lock and the, is it Soulbringer? I don't know. I don't play Warlocks. And then the Ranger, Rogue, and Wizard will have 2 DPS Paragon paths, but I want to imagine the Wizard will have 1 path that really specifies towards more control, because that's what Wizards do. That's what I would do if I was remaking or redesigning the Control Wizard. Just a thought. PowerPoints, to cut it short, they're being removed. They don't see much point in them. I feel sorry for people that have bought PowerPoints with Zen because they literally lose the Zen they've purchased, whether they bought it with AD or real money. That's a shame. I do hope there's going to be some kind of return, because that would suck. I haven't had to buy my PowerPoints. I'm actually 2 over from the overflow XP. But yeah, it's crazy. So yeah, cut it short. It is being removed, and basically powers, once you unlock them, you unlock them. They're there, and yeah, one sec. Yeah, so basically they're at full potential, full capability with that once you unlock them. So there's no more PowerPoints. Kind of nice, because it was a pain for me with like new characters or alt characters like my cleric, or I have a guardian fighter as well. And because I don't play them as often, I really wasn't getting PowerPoints to get the powers up to rank 4 for full capability or full potency. So that'll be kind of nice, but like I said, I feel sorry for people that bought PowerPoints with Zen. It's kind of sucks. Tanking and healing. This is changing a lot. Basically, to cut it short, so I don't read you this whole thing, because the point is I'm supposed to be summarizing it for you. Tanking and healing are going to be way more prominent, because as we're going to get into, they're removing stats like the lifesteal and the recovery. So tanking and healing are going to be real things. There is no more buff, so no one has to take damage. It's healers actually have to heal, and tanks actually have to tank, which will be kind of nice, because I always thought it was kind of dumb that you have a tank and a healer, but they're just buffing your power, your DPS. They're not actually tanking or healing. You know, most MMOs, you need a tank and a healer because they are a tank and a healer. So, you know, that'll be kind of nice. We'll see how it actually goes, because, like I said, and especially in this game, people seem to find a way around the original mechanics, so a way to kind of tweak it, if that makes sense. But basically, tanking is going to be reworked. Paladin and Cleric Divinity are going to be used and earned differently with different mechanics. And yeah, really, because I don't really play these classes a lot, I really can't say. One thing that's interesting is it says the Paladin Fighter and the Great Weapon Fighter, or the Barbarian, all have a redesigned guard which provides a shield equal to their maximum hit points. Which will be interesting if they were to change the Great Weapon Fighter to having a guard instead of their rage, if that makes sense. Again, you have to see. We have to wait and see, but that's just something that came to mind as I was reading that. Last but not least, stats. So, let's see. To cut it short, for every stat, they're adding an opposing role. So, for example, armor penetration. We have armor penetration because it contributes to the defenses ignored, because enemies have defense. So if they have 60% defense, we need 60% armor penetration. Anyone that plays the game understands how this works. And if you're new to the game, I apologize. You can probably find a guide to it somewhere. And it's explained in my Trickster Rogue guide. Even if you're not a Trickster Rogue, just click on stats, it'll explain it all. So basically what they're doing is they're adding an opposing role to basically most stats. So one of their examples was critical strike. Because everyone kind of reaches critical strike now, they are adding an opposing rating called critical avoidance. So if your enemy has 60% critical avoidance and you have 100% critical strike, you're only going to have 40% critical strike against that enemy. And they said the new cap for critical strike will be 50%. I don't know if that means 50% on the hardest boss or 50% in general. Again, have to wait and see, but I am a little scared for that. Not gonna lie. Just saying. So, stat additions and removals. So, the main ratings they said they're gonna have is hit points, power, critical strike, critical avoidance, combat advantage bonus, awareness, deflect, accuracy, armor penetration, and defense. So the three new main ones seem to be critical avoidance, awareness, and accuracy. Utility stats, action point gain, recharge speed, stamina gain, critical severity, control bonus, control resistance, movement, gold gain, XP gain, glory gain, companion influence, and incoming healing bonus. And then the stats they're removing from Neverwinter are armor class, area of effect resistance, damage over time resistance, regeneration, and recovery, and lifesteal. Two big ones. Recovery and lifesteal are being removed. Yes, that's a thing. Basically, they said they're removing lifesteal and recovery because when players have such a high amount of lifesteal like they do these days at endgame, you're either at full HP or you're dead. So that kind of rules out the need for a healer. Whereas the recovery, a lot of classes like the tanks and the healers are using the recovery to basically use encounters and dailies almost as frequently as at-wills, which kind of defeats the purpose of them being encounters and dailies. So that's the reason they're removing those two stats. It has some additional notes, but they're not really important. Deflect caps at 50%, combat advantage gets a 10% bonus, and critical strike gets a 5% chance bonus by default. So, yeah. Oh, and critical strike is now capped at 50%. Oh, you know what? That probably means that going beyond 50% is, yeah, not gonna happen. It just doesn't amount to anything. I guess kind of like armor penetration. There's no point going over a specific percentage because you don't gain anything from it. Damn, that sucks. Okay. Anyways, that is everything they have announced so far. Like I said, they put out 4 developer blogs this morning, about 2 hours ago. So this would be interesting. But to say the least, it's a new adventure. I have a feeling a lot of people might quit because the last time they did a level cap increase, a lot of people quit. I think they could have made these changes and it would have been a lot more acceptable minus the level cap increase, because everyone's problem is they spend so much AD on rings, artifacts, you know, getting them up to max quality. They spend a lot of time farming gear. It's just to have to try and refarm all that is a little bit of a pain. We'll have to wait and see. Like I said, nothing's on preview yet, but we'll just wait and see. And yeah, like I said, subscribe, take care, and I'll add timestamps in the description so that you can just click and go back to certain points about certain things if you want. It leaves open a lot of questions. I understand that. Like I said, I'm going to keep making more videos as more things get announced. Once it's released on the preview server, I'll probably do a full video covering everything. But for now, that's all we know. So take care and have a good one.